Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. It's Aaron from ClassHorrorCast. Welcome back to another episode. This is a Valentine's Day bonus episode. So basically what you're going to hear next is the raw unedited audio from a watch party that I had the chance to do with the co-writer of the movie, Wayne Powers. Not the entire episode is about the movie Valentine, but we get into things like he was the writer on Deep Blue Sea, some of the opportunities he passed on, such as The Mummy and The Ring, just general advice for writers and people wanting to be involved in the industry, some of his favourite movies, and some of the cool stuff he's done over his career, and much, much more. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope everyone has a good Valentine's Day.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so the way that Valentine began was a producer named Dylan Sellers was sitting in an airport, sort of waiting room or bookstore or something. In a bookstore with those stacks of paperbacks.
Yep.
And he saw this one that said Valentine and had a bloody something on it. And he sort of immediately thought this would be perfect because he looked it up and it turns out that Valentine's Day that year was going to be on a Friday. So he thought that he's such a producer. He thought that this would bring in the people on a Friday so the whole weekend would be built around it. And he considered a good piece of commerce was the word he used. And that's really how the movie did begin, as looking at it as a piece of commerce. Myself, I really like slash movies, Halloween type movies, and so I was, interested right away. But that's how it began. And then at that phase in my career, I had just finished Deep Blue Sea, another horror movie, and
which I just watched today, actually. Again.
And hooked up with this producer, Dylan Sellers. And what we did was I wrote up a pitch. Mm-hmm. And for those that are curious, the pitch was about 12 pages. And I remember we were staying at this hotel in Santa Monica. The studio had put us up there. And, and I was pacing the lobby back and forth, practicing my pitch, to the point where a security guard came up to me trying to see if I was out of my mind or just pitching a movie. And the next day, in one day, we hit, I think it was 6 different executives of studios, one of whom actually fell asleep while it was being pitched.
Wow.
I later read that he had a real cocaine problem, though I don't know, it shouldn't be asleep, it should wake you up. But anyway, we pitched that, and we had 2 bites. We had Artisan Pictures, which had not yet done Blair Witch Project. They were still a new company. They were just doing a movie about a Roman Polanski movie, and so they came out to me and they said, "Hey, we're willing to put this in pre-production immediately, and we're willing to go scouting for different sites and everything. We're ready to do it, but they weren't really ready to do it." And then Warner Brothers, oh, by the way, this is for me attached to direct. And Warner Brothers, they said yes, and we will also do that. And then let's see, so it went from Adam Harrington. See the guy on the left with his foot in his teeth?
Yeah.
That's Adam Harrington. And I did a mini-series that I wrote and directed called Out of Order. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the stars of the series, coincidentally. Anyway, so back to my story. So we pitched it to them. They said, okay to directing. And then we wrote a script. And they only had because of tight schedule, we only gave them like 3 weeks to decide once they had the script if they're going to make it or not. And they decided not. And so what happens then?
This was Warner Brothers, was it?
We need to go to Artisan because that was in our contract. And so Artisan, the ones that had said before they would do everything fast, was indeed doing everything fast, but not fast enough because Artisan was basically going broke because of this Roman Polanski movie, and so they shut down everything. Like I said later, Blair Witch would come and change everything, but they shut everything down, and then it goes back to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers. They brought in another pair of writers to work on it, and another director, Jamie Blanks. And so I remember being very depressed, having my movie, came very far in the movie. We were casting it, and I was with production designer in Toronto. And, it happens to people all the time. In fact, Rennie Holland mentioned that it happened to him many times. Including a sequel to the Alien movie series franchise. So I was very down, but I went to the set of the Deep Blue Sea, which was filming at the exact same time I was away, and I was on the set there, and they were Akiva Goldsman and Rennie Holland were very sympathetic, as they have all been through this before. So that's how it began. Are we getting, is everybody able to hear and stuff? And it was nice Valentine's for you, read you. Okay. All right. So that was sort of the history of how it got started. And, I tell some of the differences between the movie that was made and the project that I would have made. And this is not Solid Grace because I think they did a really good job. And the movie, they made a commercial movie, made a lot of money, and people seem to like it. And it just wasn't what I had envisioned. Most of my films, like Italian Job, for example, they stuck right to the script. And stuff like that. They were, in fact, Mark Wahlberg said to me that he is going to stick right to the script because he doesn't want other people to go off and do their own thing like an ensemble cast. So he's always going to pull them back. They have to come back to where it is. So that's definitely a good thing for a writer to hear. And I've been on other things too. Miniseries I did for Showtime. Flitzy Hoffman, William Macy, those guys could come from Mammoth School and they stick exactly word perfect. They just make it work for their character. And so here we have some. So I don't really have the ability to talk about all of these cast members and stuff. I will tell you sort of from my movie, my version of the movie, I interviewed Carmen Electra from Baywatch, and who is beautiful. I mean, everybody knows it, but she, besides Salma Hayek, she's the most beautiful woman that I've met in person. I've seen Charlize Theron and other very beautiful women. Like Jennifer Lopez and stuff like that. And she came in, and also Claudia Schiffer, the supermodel / married to the magician. And you know who he is, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you know who she is?
Yeah.
Okay. So by the way, when I hear you, when you talk, it's muted. I can't hear you. I just see your lips move. Is that okay?
Can you hear me now?
Maybe it's mine. I don't know what to push. Waiting for host to soon. But again, you can hear me.
Okay, yeah, so the guys are saying they can hear me.
Yeah, I wish I could hear you, because that would be nice. I think I got it. Okay, good. Oh, no, I can't. Can you speak? That's my TV.
Can you hear me?
Oh, wait, I can hear it. Can you do that again?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, very good. Now, I started casting, and I don't know if you know these names, but I cast Nia Long, Tara Reid, and Jeremy Sisko. And it was much better, much lower budget movie than this. This was $10 million. And this had a really good Hollywood, commercial cast with Denise Richards and David, and it was very good. Mine would have been more down and dirty. And how can you said you had a couple questions to ask?
Yeah, so I was just going to ask. So when you first got involved, you didn't have the script before you guys pitched it, was it?
Say it again?
So when you first got involved in all this, the original plan was for you to write and direct the movie.
Yes.
And then from there, which company was it that decided not to go forward with that, or it changed hands at one point, was it?
Trying to justify, huh? What was the... Okay, I'm sorry. So when I first hired to do it...
Yeah, so the original plan was for you to write and direct the movie, yeah?
Yes.
And from there then, why... did it change companies? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it went from started at Warner Brothers. Then Warner Brothers, by contractually, they had to decide really fast.
Okay.
So Warner Brothers passed because they couldn't make the movie that fast. Went to Artisan, separate company.
Yep.
And Artisan Pictures said, yes, we're gonna do it with you guys. Then Artisan ran out of money, so they paid us to go back to them, and that's when the big change came, because they couldn't do the fast version. They wanted to do a different version, and that's what they did.
And
there's a very creepy scene right now where he stabs each choice. It was very nice. As I mentioned, the dialogue in this movie is way different than the original dialogue. It started off as being more of a romantic, not romantic comedy, but having, that type of a feel to it. Like when I had an actress audition for it, she said, I didn't even realize it was a horror movie until I got, to about 15 pages. And that's the first time that the guy in the mask, that he has the blood bleeding from the nose. And that's a recurring thing. That comes from when I was in college. My nose used to always bleed like that. And that's where that's from.
And so when they decided to change the script and stuff around, what was their reasoning behind that decision?
I wish I could. Yeah. Okay, I'm here now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they decided to go for a script change or whatever, rewrites, what was the reasoning like on their end?
Well, it's hard to say because they're not going to insult you and stuff, so they're not going to say, well, we just thought it sucked.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was it. They liked us a lot, just having done Deep Blue Sea. But what I was told was they needed to move they wanted to go to slower pace because it was rushed to make the Valentine's Day opening date. And once they decided that, they just thought that they should find a director. And then the director, I don't know exactly the relationship with the director and the writers that followed. My guess is that he knew him or just read something of theirs they liked. But it wasn't like they said, well, we want this one thing changed or we like this or that.
Yeah.
I think there was always a lot of questions about tone. And, this is a true slasher movie. And I think that that it wasn't as much of a true slasher movie than I wrote. Although, I mean, it does have, for example, there's a scene in this movie where she gets a Valentine's Day candy thing. Mm-hmm. You try to put in all the tropes of thing. Gets the candy thing and she opens it and it was bugs or something, maggots or something like that. Well, in our version, she got the candy and she put it in her mouth and basically unaware that inside her is a razor blade. And a chunk of her tongue falls off into the sink, which is to me is like a real horror movie. And but that changed to maggots. I don't know why, but it was that sort of thing in tone and that kind of thing.
And does because a lot of people probably don't know that the original idea was loosely based off of a novel. For people who don't know, then how is there many lines that can be drawn between the two? Or was it just a basic idea?
Not at all. And it was bought for the cover, essentially.
Yeah.
But the novel, which I read and it was told in the first person, like I went here, went there, so you didn't know. That's how you didn't know. But there's no way to do that as a movie because that would have to involve the whole thing being from the point of view of a camera.
Yeah.
And just wouldn't work. So that it was a different beast.
Yeah, and as regards the killer and stuff, was that something that you had originally come up with? The kind of stuff.
Yeah, in the ditch. It was in the ditch.
Yeah. And where did that idea come from, or what? Can you remember what sparked that?
Which part of it?
Just the look of the character, even, or the idea that you had for that whole character coming together the way he did.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been 22 years, but that I can't remember. It was always designed to have a trick ending and to fool the audience, which is basically pretty much a trope of the genre, but. It just sort of came from that, trying to think of things that will pull the audience and thinking it's one person and another, thinking it's another, which is not, original, but it does work to do.
Yeah.
I see we have some questions here. Was the villain's type of mask something you wrote in, or was it decided during production? Well, it's funny because at first we had it be the Valentine mask like it is today. That's how we wrote it down. But then somebody, the producer, wanted to be wanted to be a pig's mask because they call this kid Piggy, and because some reasons like that. So some versions went to that draft with the pig mask. Then it went back to the original mask, and I think the mask they made was really nice. I used to have one that I would wear on Halloween, and but I have no idea what happened to it. But I got one of the real ones, not the paper ones, but the real ones that they use in the movie.
Yeah, that's something.
They did a really good job with that mask, I thought.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that a company hasn't commissioned to sell that mask, because even still 20 odd years later, that mask always gets mentioned, and especially by fans of slasher movies. That mask is one that I find people look for customs of constantly.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Rennie Holland was supposed to do a Alien sequel. Yeah, can hear it perfectly. Oh, really good. Yeah. So for the Rennie Holland question, he was going to do the Alien. Trying to think, it was Alien. It would have been like Alien 4 or something like that. And they had gone and they had storyboarded everything. They had picked everything, and then they pulled the plug on it. I don't know why, but they did. And yeah, let's see what else there was here. Was the villain's type okay? Slasher movie to based on a novel, totally that and the mask. By both. Each definitely one of the best masks. Oh yeah, I agree. One of the best masks. That's sort of one of the keys to our movies is deciding what kind of masks they have.
And I feel like the blood dripping from the nose, that's something as well. It's like an iconic image.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's become one of those
like
things.
I said, I was a heavy nosebleeder in college. And I didn't kill anybody. Right enough.
And as regards the violence aspect of it in your original drafts and stuff, was there anything that made it into the final movie, or did they scrap?
Oh yeah, no, I think that the set pieces were pretty much mine.
Okay.
So for example, well, for one thing, I had the tongue thing that didn't get shot, but the whole thing with Denise Richards in the tub in the jacuzzi, that was completely mine. I had lived in a house at the time with a jacuzzi and also swimming pool. Originally, it was written as a swimming pool, and they closed the cover, but it was a pool cover, but it was sort of see through. And it was the same thing where she was trapped underneath them and the drill and all that kind of stuff. But I think they found that the swimming pool part was too expensive to deal with. But so they did it with a jacuzzi. And the set piece of the art gallery showing, that was written. All the set pieces were already written, except I don't think it had anything to do with the one that was in a morgue, where the people were zipped up. I don't recall writing that. But the dialogue was completely changed.
Really?
It's always a frustrator for a writer that really pays attention to his dialogue. But that's all right.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because I had seen several interviews with Jamie Blanks and some other people involved in the final movie that had said if they could go back, they would change a lot of that dialogue and some of the maybe more humorous parts that became kind of just odd.
Yeah, I don't, I won't comment on how good it is or not good it is. It is what it is. Here's a shower scene. That's nice. Water is something that I use. You should have seen. So this reminded me how I won't say who was doing it, but someone was begging Denise Richards to take off her top for the jacuzzi scene. And,
I had heard that story.
He's really been kind of pushing. Nowadays, I think he would have simmered down, but he was trying to convince him to do it. I'm sure maybe he was for this too. But
do you know if there was any truth to? I know a lot of the fans of this movie had. There's a lot of talks of a director's cut, and there was like maybe scenes like the one you mentioned with the razor blade and stuff that they had actually been filmed but trimmed.
Yeah, I'm sure they. I'm sure they. I know they didn't shoot the razor blade candy scene. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure Jamie would be better knowing that I have the DVD. I don't think that has unlimited scenes on it. Do you know?
No, I don't think it does, but I had just, from looking online on forums and stuff, a lot of people talked about possible scenes that maybe from, like you said, like from earlier in the drafts and stuff that maybe had been filmed, but it's all, like, nobody's ever confirmed it. I don't know if it's just a conspiracy.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. But what's this like? It's like the statue bleeding just for you. Okay, cool. Glad you liked it. Trying to think what you might want to talk about.
Had you ever been?
Oh, I wrote. I did it right with her putting her head into the toilet.
A lot of people bring up this scene as well.
Yeah, I think I also wrote it in an episode of a TV series with the same thing, but I can't remember what episode that was. If any of you care, I can talk a little bit about my career and stuff that happened.
Go for it.
So I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, and I was raised in New Hampshire. And since I was 12 years old, I wanted to write movies, even though I came from a town of 500 people and had no idea what that really meant. Just sort of an image of it when I was 12 years old, I remember. I went to USC Film School, and again, having no connections, not knowing anybody there. And I was very focused, worked really hard, won a Student Emmy Award, and then got out of college and wrote one spec script. And that script was not commercial at all. It was about farm workers in the 1930s, black and white sharecroppers. And anyway, but it was really well received and got me working at the age of 22 on a TV series called Cagney and Lacey. And also I wrote a TV movie that was in the top 10 as far as the audience was. Got a 33 share, if you know what that means. And that led to other TV movies. And then my agent said, well, said TV movies, what do you think about doing a TV series? And I said, well, it's not as classy as it. He said, well, it pays a lot more, and it's getting classy. And so we started to write for shows like The Equalizer, not the new version, the old version, and series like that for about 4 years, and then moved into features, wrote a spec feature that was sort of a horror movie as well. It was about a father who thinks his son is a serial killer, or maybe the father's one that's going kind of crazy and is dangerous. That got really well received when that made, and so then continued writing movies that are paid to write them, but they didn't get made. But that's very common. And then Deep Blue Sea came, and Deep Blue Sea made a lot of money, very successful, and that sort of led to other things. Valentine, The Italian Job, the miniseries, that kind of stuff.
I know this. We're watching this movie, but I'm kind of intrigued by Deep Blue Sea as well, because it was such a hit, and even still, it's just one of those cult movies that has a huge following. How did that all come about for you, or how did you become involved in that?
Warner Brothers had other writers write many drafts. Mm-hmm. So it was at the end, it was so rare anyway, they had many writers. And then they took on Rennie Holland, director, they attached him, and then we started to work with him very closely on the script, and Rennie loves to make these storyboards. And so anyway, there was a rush to write it quickly, because if they were going to commit to it, they would have to commit to building the sharks immediately. and the sharks were worth millions of dollars to build. Yeah. So it's sort of like having a pay-or-play actor involved. That either you do it and then you say yes to the sharks and commit to the whole thing, or you just don't do it.
Yeah.
And this was it was mostly written over Christmas holidays. And at the end of it, they decided, when they got it, the draft, they decided to give it a blinking red light, it's called, and blinking green light. And so there's Adam Harrington again.
This scene, you said you had this art gallery thing, this set piece was all your...
Yeah, it was pretty vividly described, yeah.
Yeah, but again, I love this scene.
Like whatever the dialogue is here, I wouldn't have written that.
Yeah.
But the set was saying, in fact, one of the funnest experience of the movie was the premieres, the party after the premiere, because all this, it was set up like this.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of fun, with sort of a maze thing and stuff, so it was cool.
That's cool, I like that. So somebody asked here, what is your favorite project that you've ever worked on?
Okay, well, I'm going to do two. And one of them was called Out of Order, and it stars, it's on Amazon Prime. It stars Felicity Huffman, Eric Stoltz, William Macy, Peter Bogdanovich, Jason Bateman. Yeah. And it was a mini-series, limited series. It was set for like 6 episodes. I directed the pilot and the 2-hour pilot and the last episode. And it's a drama, and it was a lot of fun. I had total control over it. Just they left me in Vancouver, and I got to do what I wanted to. And I was very happy with the outcome and everything. The other hand was the Italian Job, because that's, I love movies that only Hollywood could do as well. Yeah. You kind of do a little budget movie, version, but it's really like that's what Hollywood's made for, was to do that kind of a movie.
Yeah.
And I love the genre. It was so much fun when they were going to see them filming the Brinks truck that goes to the door. And there were a bunch of tourists lined up all around, watching while this thing blows up, and I think they're all thinking, "Oh, this must happen every time and every day in Hollywood," because they film everything there. But he was, so the Italian Job, and people really like anywhere. I was in the country of Jordan talking about the Italian Job, and they didn't speak a word of English, but if you sort of describe various scenes and stuff, they know it and they get it, and it's a real worldwide, phenomenon. And so it's two different ways. One was being the small movie to be able to direct and like that, have great control of it and stuff. And then the other one, they did a very good job sticking to the script, but also, when you do a movie for, $80 million, and back then, it's a lot of money, and they get to spend it well.
You had mentioned earlier that you're a slasher movie fan. What are some of your favorite, or is there anything that sticks out for you?
Yeah, I think for sure I liked, Damien, The Omen.
Yeah.
I like The Omen very much. And I sort of have a theory about horror movies, between the difference between a horror movie and a thriller. And the difference is that in a horror movie, some limb has to come off. Like lose your arm, lose your head, it's like you're like, oh yeah, it's a horror movie now, it's on. And The Omen we don't think necessarily is a slasher movie because it's about, the devil and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it had the stake go down some of his mouth and all that kind of thing. And I'm writing a movie right now called Here Comes the Bride, and it has it's a horror movie like straight through. There's the bloody girl and the bride, and she gets she gets stabbed she's stabbed here, so the knife is sticking out like this, and she cuts off her arm, and so she's hitting with the severed arm. She's hitting the girl with a knife going through. I don't want to describe it, but anyway, that's the idea of it. So that's a true horror movie. I think it's a different type of horror movie in that they talk about very erudite type of things, and that character was kind of funny from the Valentine there. Anyway, don't want to be distracted. So those are my two favorite. But Deep Blue Sea was a lot of fun too because I got to ride on the shark.
Oh, did you?
So it was cool. Yeah, and that was shot in Mexico at the Titanic sets. And in fact, if James Cameron had not made Titanic, I don't think they could have made Deep Blue Sea. But they had all those special things where the walls would all come in, come out, and different water levels and stuff, and it was all ideal for
it. So if you could get involved with maybe or rewrite a script or write a new entry in an existing horror franchise, is there any character or world that you would like to play in with a story?
That I would like to play in?
Yeah. Like, is there, would you be interested?
We had this thing with the arrows going through. That was a set piece. But anyway, if there's any, I'm sorry, what? I guess not be distracted by the movie.
No, you're fine. Is there any existing horror character or franchise that you would have ever been interested in or are interested in maybe doing a new story or reimagining?
Well, I'll go back to my favorite horror movie is The Exorcist. Now there they didn't cut anything off. She just swung her head all the way around, so I think that counts. Being a true horror movie. And so that's obviously, speaking of Ray Helen, he directed one of those sequels. And I think that, that I think is still fertile ground.
Yeah.
And there's such good characters in it and stuff. The only disadvantage is they haven't made so many, but it takes a lot of guts to pick up that mantle.
Yeah, and I feel like even in modern day, I know they had the TV show, which was quite good, but I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there, I think, to reintroduce that maybe to a younger audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that I don't think it can be made today the way they made it, which is, the cross going through and saying all that stuff. It was a very risky movie, and they were able to get an R rating out of it. That's pretty amazing.
Did you ever expect, maybe with some of the other projects, but let's take this movie for example, so Valentine and Deep Blue Sea and stuff. Did you expect those to be so popular? And so, I mean, it's 20 years on, and they're probably as popular as ever.
Yeah, I have high expectations all the time. I think everything's been great. Not like some people are just like, it's not going to do anything, something like that. But I'm like, this is going to be a big hit and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very optimistic that way. And and I just made a movie called Lesbian Not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty funny because in the trailer for Valentine, they had the girl saying Lesbian Not, which is also what, and I think it was coincidence. I didn't really realize it, but I stole it from myself. And they had that in my Lesbian Not movie. Starts with a scene early on where the girl's picking the daisy and saying that. But it's funny because it's almost more of a nightmare because it's not anywhere a thriller thing like that. It's a dark comedy, and about a woman who is always involved in these ne'er do wells and people that are inappropriate, unobtainable, and so in some ways the horror of dating scene is to be juxtaposed with Valentine's. It's kind of sort of funny because they're kind of in the same territory, but of course completely different genre. But by the way, Loves Me, Loves Me Not is on Amazon Prime as well for free, so you can see both Out of Order and Loves Me Not on Amazon, as well as all my other films, I assume.
Out of Order is fantastic for anyone who is looking for something to pick up, and it's fun as well because you've got 6 episodes, so it's kind of like bittersweet. It's short enough that it's like really enjoyable. You can really pay attention, but then it feels like it's not long enough because you kind of get into it too much.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you saw it. That's terrific.
Yeah, it was kind of, like I said, it was bittersweet. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, but I'm not going to lie and say that I wasn't a little bit greedy towards the end and maybe wanted another 6 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those, anyway, it's complicated, yeah. But I'm nice to talk to someone who's seen it. Because a lot of people, you just sort of say it's on Showtime, especially at the time they said, oh, yeah, I've seen the billboards, but I don't have Showtime. It's changed since then, but that was often the case back then.
Had you ever been attached to any other, big projects maybe that fell through, or had you ever come in and polished up scripts for anything?
Yeah, for a polished thing, I did. Do you ever a movie called Paycheck?
Mm-hmm.
With Ben Affleck, and directed by what's his name? John Woo.
Yep.
Directed by John Woo. So they brought Sherry Lansing was the president of Paramount Pictures.
Mm-hmm. They
needed a new ending. So they brought me in, and so they had one weekend to come up with a new ending and shoot it on Monday. And the movie is just about to come. It was really close to when they had to have the cut in. It was like what they call wet print. They could bring in right at the last minute. Mm-hmm. And so they brought me in, and we also just told it could only be. There's a lot of things around it that had to be accomplished with the scene. So wrote the scene, and went. Shot the next day, and then I went, and he was a little bit upset, the director, because he's famous for having these scenes where these doves always fly off, mm-hmm. and that's part of his thing. And in order for the scene that I wrote to work, there could not be birds; they could not fly off because they just couldn't fly off. So he was not happy about that. In a way, it shows you that film directors, many people believe in their auteur theory, but filmmakers don't really have, with obvious exceptions of Steven Spielberg, Ridley Scott and stuff, they do not have much power, because in films, it's the studio head that says, we need one of these 5 actors. Studio heads say, we need this budget, which means this many days they get to shoot. It's a studio that often says, we want this editor to come in. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so it's tough. So I think, when it comes down to it, if Paramount wants to have, there be no birds, there are no birds, because they're Paramount. And so anyway, so that was one thing that, that was fun to do, actually, to do that rewrite, and got to go to the premiere and meet Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez.
And with something like that, so you get maybe 24, 48 hours to read the script and then come up with an ending that suits?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It felt right. It wasn't hard, though. It felt right into place. But the good thing was, it went up. They redid the test screening, and it went up 20 points. So it was very, very pleasing. So, but
and how do you enjoy situations like that? With that, I'm assuming there's a certain amount of maybe pressure there to perform and
yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy it, and it's also fun because it's nice to just you do something, it's done, they shoot it. You know, in a typical movie, you write something, you know, it could be years before it gets made, if it gets made. And so obviously that is more frustrating. I allow myself one day, you know, if my job goes away or I didn't get the job or some element fell in the process or whatever, I allow myself one day to be depressed. And then, and I am, but then the next day I said, oh, fuck it, move on. Oops, I don't know, sorry about that.
No, that you're fine. That was a question I was actually going to ask later on was, I'm sure there's probably, and not by any fault of your own or based off the quality of your work, but I'm sure there's probably a lot of projects that fall through a lot of times. And I was just going to ask how do you deal with, you know, when you pour your heart and soul into something and then it takes so long to come together?
Yeah, it's difficult. Although I have heard people say, you know, it's like having my baby die. Well, that's total bullshit because I know people that have their babies die. It's devastating. But they use that same thing for you have to decide what babies you're going to be able to throw out and what babies you can keep and stuff. You know, it's not that bad. And but it can be. I think what's tougher than the job can be the people you work for. As far as like, I had a friend who was on this Michael Mann TV show, and Michael Mann, if your fans probably know the director. Mm-hmm. Michael Mann's on Thief and all that type of thing. This guy had written a script from an episode, and he calls the writer into his office, which he keeps very cold because he wants to intimidate, you know, his minions. So he holds up the script this guy spent the whole last week working on, and he goes, I read your script, words. And then he drops the script into the waste paper basket. Now that's the kind of thing that can really make you feel bad. You know, much worse than just, oh, you didn't get this episode. So the situation, luckily I've not been in that exact situation at all. In fact, most of my experiences have been very good. I find that directors and stuff pay are really good to their writers because they need them. And I've not seen the sort of horror stories that, I'm sure they exist, but I've been fortunate enough to avoid them.
Yeah, because I've seen, you know, online you'll see different things, and I know a lot of that stuff gets sensationalized, but it was something I was always intrigued by, that, you know, people have to maybe go through some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Somebody asked here, and I know you probably have to be maybe careful or how you answer this, but if you were to change anything about Valentine from the version that we got, is there any huge things that stick out that you would have changed?
I guess the razor blade.
That sense, yeah.
What do you think? Which is better, a razor blade in a candy and a tongue coming out, or maggots? Which do you think?
Like, I would go straight away with the razor blade, and I had no idea because I always thought that scene was quite it was quite good. I was like, oh, that's it's disgusting. It's something different.
Right.
But I had no idea that the original intention there was to have the razor blade and the tongue fall out. That would have been so much better.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, things like that. Let's see what's going on here.
The scene.
Mask is really good. I didn't remember what he's doing there. Okay, so what else you got?
Let's see. I have some questions here that I got online.
was shot in Vancouver. I was going to shoot in Toronto.
Could you have ever seen a possible sequel, or this being? I'm actually, in a way, I'm glad that the movie didn't have any sequels, but I'm actually surprised that it didn't spin off a franchise, to be honest.
Really? Well, that would have been great. It made, it cost $10 million, I think, to make. This is in their dollars. Probably today that would be $15 million. So pretty relatively low budget, and it made like 35, I think, million. And so that's not exactly breaking bank. It made it profitable, which is great, but it wasn't like Deep Blue Sea, which is 175 million by now. Yeah. Or the Italian Job would be about 175 million by now. So I don't think, I just didn't catch on to that degree that they would make a sequel. Didn't seem like. The script that I just wrote, Here Comes the Bride, is, I have two versions, an alternative version to the end. Two versions. One version is clearly set for a sequel, and one version is more dramatic and not quite so set up for a sequel. So I'm going to have to decide this week which version to go with.
Is that something that you would do often? Like, do you try to leave yourself... Obviously, if it suits the story, do you like to have alternate endings in case something...
Well, Deep Blue Sea it was definitely out. They changed the ending. And it was done, again, there was an example where had to decide what to change to. Well, basically, they did a test screening, and it got very well, but people didn't like Charlize Theron character. In fact, one person said on the paper in big letters, "The bitch must die," and that was about it for Charlize. Now, I argued with Warner Brothers that she should die. I wanted her to die all along because she was the one who screwed up. People see the movie. She's the one that created this monster. And but they didn't think so, and so she lived. And then they had her coming back, and just by shooting, like, it's interesting how they did it. It was just very simple changes of shots and stuff. And they shot for one day in the water tank, and they had her get killed. She had always lived before, but she died. And it was more satisfactory just to have the two survivors, had Miguel Cuji and Thomas Jane, than it would have been. Anyway, I think it was a very strong decision, a good decision, and definitely why people do test screenings sometimes. Sometimes they're right to do it.
Yeah, do you think that feedback was because she technically, in a way, had caused the entire thing?
Yeah.
I can't even... I'm trying to picture her character being left alive, and I can kind of see what you mean about it was probably the right thing to do to...
Yeah.
So somebody asked here, how often is a writer on set?
It depends on the director. There is a rule that I think, yes, you have to let a writer go on the set like once, something like that, which is fine because you got to at least do that, so you can take pictures and that kind of stuff because he wrote the script or she, and but otherwise it's up to the director. I've been on the sets like for Italian Job, Deep Blue Sea, obviously God of Horror. Anyway, I've always been on the script. I think one trick to being on a set, if you're invited, is you don't interfere in any way. You don't talk to an actor unless the actor talks to you, and even then, you tend to say, well, "That's an interesting question. You should really ask Rennie about that." I've never had that problem, but that is the problem that you hear from people, is that they're interfering or making noises like, oh my God. And it's tricky because, like with Thomas Jane in Deep Blue Sea, the things that I wish I could have said to him but I know that to do that would have been, suicide. If you're invited on, it's a privilege, but it's usually very fun.
Okay, so somebody says, sorry, but really random question, but is it true that this movie got a Super Bowl ad spot?
It was on at the same time as Sundance Festival, and they did so many advertisements. It was like they were everywhere. Mm-hmm. And because I was in Sundance, and so I was sitting at the bar and we were playing, I'd say to the female beside me, "Oh, that's my movie." But anyway, what was the exact question?
They just asked, is it true that the movie had a Super Bowl ad?
No, I don't think so, because I don't think they would definitely not have spent that much money on that.
Yeah, because I think that's random as well, but I had actually researched some of the trivia about the movie, and that pops up a lot. This rumor that at a cost of 10 million, this is the cheapest film of all time to have ever had a Super Bowl spot. Now, I'm not sure if that's true.
I would have. Are you frozen? Well, I definitely would have noticed if the ad for it played a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would have imagined.
Have you lost me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I definitely would know if it played on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I watched Super Bowl and wrote the movie. I wrote the movie, so I don't think that's true.
How was it for you?
I'm impressed with this trivia about the movie.
Yeah, I was surprised when I had seen that, because I would imagine a Super Bowl spot is quite expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. The movie, it does have its own, it doesn't have the sort of afterlife that some I've written, but it does have an afterlife. I meet people and, who did I meet? He wrote the Carrie movies, the TV series, the Carrie movies, and he also did a TV series, Fuller. Anyway, I met him and I was like, yeah, I wrote this movie, not my best movie, Valentine. I said, I love that movie. And he was a really good writer that I respected a lot. So, you never know.
Yeah, like I do think it's one of those movies that's going to stand the test of time. And even the fact that it had gotten re-released by Scream Factory with the collector's edition last year, the year before as well, is always a good sign.
What's in the collector's edition?
They re-interviewed Denise Richards and a few other people. I think the editor. They had brought on some, I guess, horror industry personalities, and they'd done like a live commentary track, a new one.
This is a DVD?
Yeah.
I just have all DVD.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
The Blu-ray.
Oh, cool. I have to definitely check that out. Somebody
asked, why did you want to shoot the movie in Toronto instead of Vancouver?
Back then, Toronto was considered to be more of the industry, well, the infrastructure, like the best Steadicam people, the best this people, that people were in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Vancouver, which had more of a newer sort of presence in the film industry back then, was considered that you wouldn't get as good a crew. You might get the sort of third, tier type crew on it, especially if you're dealing with a lower budget film. Mm-hmm. So that was the reason.
Had
this, by the way, this said, I think he did a really good job with this stuff, because I know he didn't have much of a budget, and because 10 million is not much of a budget, and this is a good looking scene. Denise Richards. I went to I saw the movie for the first time when Denise Richards saw it for the first time, the final put together version, and she was very nice, and she seemed, she asked me, what did you think of it? And so you realize that these people, that they're nervous, they want it to be good, they want to do a good job and be good and stuff. And if you start giving them praise, which everybody likes, but if you start giving actors praise, they really dig it. As long as it needs to be at least somewhat earnest, but you sort of think of them as stars, and then you realize they just want to make a good movie.
That's always interesting to hear that as well. It kind of brings a little bit of transparency, because I think for a lot of people, we think of maybe people in your position, the actors on screen, the Hollywood tint on everything, and you kind of forget that there's a lot of passion, emotion, things like that are behind all these things.
Even a slasher movie.
Yeah. Had you ever been? Did you have any interest in doing any kind of movies like this movie after that point?
Well, I had a little bit of this feeling of a moving target is harder to hit, so I wanted to be in different genres. Mm-hmm. So, although Deep Blue Sea was, I found, definitely a horror movie. Definitely a guy lost his arm, and got shoot up. And that movie, the effects might not be right up to date. That movie really holds up.
Really does.
It's a lot of fun. People really get scared of it. And but I wanted to do different things, like for Out of Order that I talked about before. That was a straight drama. I mean, it had funny parts, but it was a drama. And then I've written other scripts for straight action movies. I've hit most genres, and I hit genres. And I like genres because in a genre you can come across, I'm trying to say, you can do your drama show and you can hide it in the genre. So you can do a story that's really about the relationships between two brothers, but you hide it in an action movie so they sort of have the sappy stuff, or all the tropes and stuff. They can be hidden away in a genre movie.
Because it's one of those things, I think, as well, sometimes, and it's really refreshing to hear you say that, because a lot of times people get is it typecast or whatever, where you become the... It
happens to writers too.
Yeah.
Like after Deep Blue Sea was offering him many sort of horror movies. Whether I told you about a script, Skeletons in the Closet, that I wrote, that got me all this work in scary movies. Like I was offered and foolishly turned down The Mummy, and also back before, a totally different version would be a straight horror movie. And because I just didn't want to get typecast, like you said.
Really? And is that a hard... Because The Mummy is actually one of my... I wouldn't say a favourite movie, but it's one of those movies I can revisit quite a bit. Is that a hard decision? Like, say...
very hard decisions.
Yeah, like how does... I guess for your average person who's never experienced any of this, in my mind, I would think the decision to turn down even just a movie with the name The Mummy would be a very difficult thing to do. How do you, I guess, come to that conclusion? And
well, what they did, the studio, they gave me the original movie, and in black and white and stuff. I'm sure you saw it. Mm-hmm. And just in my mind, couldn't figure out how people would take it seriously. And what was so clever about the movie that they ended up making is they made it an adventure movie.
Yeah.
And I just never hadn't thought about that. If I thought of that angle, then I definitely would have, tried to get into it. But the writer director of it, that eventually did, he came up with that angle, and obviously the rest is history. But yeah, I just couldn't see it seeming realistic. But I turned down The Ring. There's like, I've done some big make mistakes.
Wow,
And
really?
there's other scripts I've turned down that have been on critics' worst 10 movies of the year list. So, you know, it's difficult, especially when you're starting off because started very young, and for people feel like, you know, what, you know, who does he think he is? You know, turning this thing down. He should be grateful. But and I was. It's always a tough choice what to make. And looking back at my career, I should have said yes to just in general more things. I should have done more work. So I sort of had in my mind, I write 2 screenplays a year, I'll get paid for them, and I'll be able to relax and live the good life. And you don't get to live the good life in Hollywood just without taking a lot of bites out of the apple.
And so you mentioned The Ring there and stuff. So what was the story around that?
I got sent a VHS of the film. It hadn't come out yet, and for one thing, it was just really impossible to view it because it was a tape that was falling apart essentially. So I didn't get a good read on it, and also I just thought, this is ridiculous. No American's going to believe this film about a phone call that kills you, and this is just an idea that no one will buy into. And I think it was a little bit wrong about that. And it was just it was a bad call.
And just on the topic of, I guess, you know, writing scripts and coming up with these stories and locations and everything, what do you think that is in somebody that you can constantly call back to something to come up with these worlds and characters over and over and over again? Like we see with a lot of things, musicians, they might have a one-hit wonder and kind of disappear, but a lot of, you know, talented writers can kind of replicate success. I know maybe to me it seems quite easy. It's obviously, I'm assuming not, but is there a process? Is it something that you think is maybe deep rooted inside somebody? Or
well, one thing that I do if I'm trying to decide to make a movie is if I can think of 4 different visual moments. Like, for example, from Deep Blue Sea, when the shark goes into the oven and hits the gas button. I pitched that in the meeting to get the job, and that I think was one of the big reasons I got the job. For one thing, because that pitched that it was a cook, it was a blue-collar person, not all these, the earlier versions written by the people that had, like, SWAT teams going there, and, you know, militias and just, you know, that kind of stuff. This was going to be about, you know, blue collar guy chopping his oven as a cook. If I can think of a few of those that I know that the job is for me, if I can't think of any of those, then it's just not for me at that time. And yeah, so that's good. The ability, I don't know where it comes from. You know, you just hope that it keeps coming again and again, because it's always the fear that it won't come. But I'm happy with the movie I just made. I'm happy with the script I just finished, and hope that they're going to do well. And don't forget to watch them on Amazon Prime.
And your what's your process then? I guess so you've got maybe you know, you've got your basis for your idea. So where do you go from that point then?
Well, it depends. There's some projects that I do. I go back to what I learned in film school and do detailed thing about the characters, and, you know, what if they're religious, all these type of things, and then you know, and write up an outline that's very specific. Each paragraph would be sort of interior, whatever, and they describe the action. And you take a lot of time for that process. Then there's other things like Out of Order, which you saw, which is very personal. That was written over Christmas break, and you know, without any, I knew it was beginning, I knew it was going to end, I knew where I was going, but I didn't have to write an outline for that. So it just depended on this. The two things that I just made. Well, I made an outline for the Here Comes the Bride slasher horror movie, and I started off by writing what the the one-liner, and then I wrote the outline and that kind of stuff. So by the time you write the script, you're really set because you've been spending so much time on it.
Somebody asked here, what software do you use for screenwriting?
What's that? What?
Somebody asked, what software do you use for screenwriting?
Oh, Final Draft. Final Draft is really the if you're gonna buy something, I would buy a Final Draft just because it's ubiquitous.
And if you could give advice to somebody, maybe I seen somebody in the chat there had said they're an aspiring writer.
Mm-hmm.
If you could give somebody like that some tips that maybe you wish you had.
Don't talk about I am a writer. Write. And write at the beginning, write every day. I mean, it's you hear this from other people too, but write every day, even if it's like write a haiku or, just something that involves your brain and writing. Make sure to do that every day. It doesn't have to be super script. Just needs to be, let that, stuff in your head just go. And let's see. He wants advice in general? Is that
yeah.
what it says? Yeah. You have to be so thick-skinned, very thick-skinned, because you're going to work on things very hard and then you just have it rejected. And I've had things that I've worked on so hard, I can't believe it. It's just, I'm really excited about it, and it just does nothing. I mean, it's like, people don't even read it. I mean, it just does nothing. So you have to be really used to that and really resilient. You have to be very resilient. And write something you hide. Like I talk about hiding the genre. Write something personal that is really about you, but you may hide it in this other character that's nothing like you. But Tolstoy said that you should, if you want to speak to the world, speak of your own village. And I think that that's a good thing to do, especially in the beginning when that's what you have, is that the advantage you have of other people at that moment is that you have lived a completely different life, and probably in most people's lives something intense has happened or exciting or whatever. And, I'd say start your own village.
Somebody said, what other screenwriters are you impressed by?
So many. I think Stephen King as a novelist had a big effect on my career. I remember reading Carrie when I was in, I don't know, if I was 11 or whatever. And as far as screenwriters, style-wise, I think Shane Black is a really good screenwriting style. He makes his screenplays entertaining to read. You're a manager or with CAA, whatever, a pile of scripts like this. When you read those scripts, I think it's important that you bring humor to your script, to the description lines, or drama, or really good prose. I think that's like the movie I just wrote. I'm very proud of the prose that's in it. A lot of similes and things like that. Think about the fact that you're writing what you hope will become worth thousands and thousands of dollars per page. So pay attention to what the page is, the layout is. Don't be lazy. Just proofread it all the time, and it's so difficult to do. I just fixed a mistake I made. He gets into a tube instead of tub, and I must have read it 50 times, and still it gets into the bathtub tube, and yeah.
Had you ever written your own take on any existing franchise and stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly, is it called a spec script? Is that where... Had you ever written... a lot of times you'll hear people will maybe shop an idea for, maybe a Freddy Krueger movie or a new Friday the 13th movie or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be horror, but had you ever maybe come up with your own version of...
Well, that's very true. Oh, here she is in the jacuzzi scene. That was originally a swimming pool, and it's a very well shot and well put together scene. She looks great, of course, and
there's a lot of great scenes like that in this movie, and that's why I was quite pleased to hear when you said a lot of the set pieces were in the original draft of the movie.
Yeah, I think this was too. And this is a pretty brutal scene, which I really like too. As it was. No, but what I have, often what I've been offered to write, or when I say offered to write, they've asked me to come in to talk about it. And they're offering it to you, but you have to still come in and meet with them and come up with some good ideas, so they won't be interested. And so what I find to be hard is, for example, they came to me and said, we'd like to hear your take on Hot Wheels, the cars.
Yeah.
We want to move about Hot Wheels, but we don't want them to be bad Hot Wheels. And so to me, that's that working backwards kind of thing. Where okay, I have this idea for the father and son to do this and this. No, you gotta do. I have an idea that this Hot Wheels, I don't know if they're gonna talk. I'm sure they're gonna make it. Maybe they already did, but it's difficult to do that. To go back in time, to go backwards.
Yeah,
to think that way. And also, I find it, unfortunately for myself, I don't get comic book movies, and I think it's a big disadvantage in my career. I just don't. So I was offered Doctor Strange as a feature. Was it a TV series now?
I want to say it's going to be, and it has a new movie.
Yeah. Well, anyway, to do a movie. And I just didn't get it. I don't get the comic books. I find it very hard even just to follow the logic of them. And they just seem so utterly ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So what I did for... Oh, that's what it was. Doctor Strange. I went in to meet with them for the job. They had not. It was not an offer. They wanted to meet with me, and I went in, and there's Stan Lee's there, and the head of the studio's there, and because I always think the outfits they have are ridiculously stupid. It's very except Spider-Man. He's cool. It's a very difficult for me to get into it. And so what I had is, do you remember the movie that was what M. Night made after Sixth Sense? Was they just did a sequel? Anyway, it was Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis.
Unbreakable.
And, what's that?
Unbreakable.
Yeah. So this was a year before Unbreakable, and basically my idea was to have not really realizing that you're a superhero to the end of the movie, just as they did in that. Only they did really good. They did a really well job of it. And poor Denise Richards, she's the drill going right through. That's pretty gruesome. That's pretty hardcore. Oh, and I also was realizing the script I just finished has someone electrocuted, but he's in a bathtub or bath tube, as I wrote. But it's weird how these things keep reoccurring, and I think that when I was in 11th grade, my best friend's father fell into the lake while holding onto a jackhammer and was electrocuted. And it had a really strong effect on me. And I realized that when I wrote that into my current script. I talked about where it comes from. Well, it came from my real life fear of electricity because it happened to my friend's father. And I see that, I put it in here too. So, yeah.
Do you feel like that happens a lot? You would draw from experiences in real life, maybe sometimes without even realizing?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Definitely. And there's a lot of that out of order. It was, anyway, yeah. So how many minutes we got left for this thing? 4 minutes?
Where are we?
See,
we're 1 hour, 20 minutes in.
Oh, Jared Leto?
Yeah, I had just posted some trivia there. They had originally considered Jared Leto for the role of Adam.
I didn't know that. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a Jared Leto movie. But anyway. So you're asking about. I'm sorry, what did you ask me?
Oh, sorry, that froze there again. Yeah, no, I had just said that. Do you find that happens a lot, where maybe you draw, whether it's subconsciously or not, from experiences maybe you've had, and you've mentioned a couple of times, maybe not realizing until afterwards you've kind of put them in.
Yeah, there's a quote that says, I write to explore the next room of my fate. And I think that's accurate. I would say, writers, they say that writers should write what they know, but I don't think they know what they know until after they've written it. I mean, I got divorced after I wrote my Out of Order. And I didn't even realize until then, anyway, that of course will make sense. And it's little tiny things as well. Like I knew a guy whose name, everybody called him Handsome Rob. And I just latched onto that. And with this permission, used it in my thing. The thing I'm writing now, which is called Here Comes the Bride, we've got, it takes place in the town that I grew up in, small town. Mm-hmm. And it has a lot of personal stuff as far as the accent go, as far as people's just overall personality of New Hampshire. And it's very, aggressive personality. And so it was a lot of fun to write that. But yes, that's where you get the stuff from.
Somebody asked. Go ahead.
I just said from the ether.
Yeah.
What is your favorite genre movie to write? My favorite movie to write? I tell you, I had a lot of fun writing this Here Comes the Bride. But I would say that ultimately I'd like to write a really well-received drama.
Did, as you were growing up and this became, I guess, your passion and your interest, did you get a lot of pushback from people? Maybe the can't do it mentality, or you're crazy for thinking of doing this?
I was I was fortunate. I did come from a town where people just stayed in the town. They didn't tend to leave. What's like the song of One Story Town. And, but my parents, I said to my parents, I said, I want to go to film school. I hadn't made a film. I did love going to movies, but I hadn't done anything as far as, like Spielberg did or anything like that. And so I want to go. And they said, okay. I got into USC, and they were like, but I got into USC as an undeclared major because they turned me down 4 times to be a cinema major. but I got them the last time. And but my parents supported me through all that stuff. They were great, and I was very, very fortunate. It's funny because I remember going to college, and all these people complaining about their parents, and I just didn't have anything to complain about. So anyway,
yeah, because I feel like, and I've seen it a lot, that it seems to be maybe parents or friends or close relatives a lot of times maybe fuel someone's drive, being told no and stuff. And I was kind of interested to find out how, I guess, when did it feel like you had really, I guess, introduced yourself into Hollywood as a place, as a person? Would it have been the success of Deep Blue Sea, where it really felt huge?
Yeah, probably Deep Blue Sea, yeah. And yeah, and also I was, when I started working the film industry, I was 22, and I looked probably 16. I mean, I looked really young. And so it's hard to really feel like you really had a leg in Hollywood, because I remember a producer on The Equalizer, the TV series The Equalizer, had not met me in person, and he was the producer that did it out of New York, and there was a producer in LA that did the screen. He was in charge of the screenwriters, and this guy was in charge of production. And the guy that was in charge of production had not met us since read the script and said, "These guys are great, but let's hire them." Then he met me and said, "He's too young to write for this show. Get rid of him." And I had a couple of examples like that. Was not, now it's the opposite, of course. But
and was that difficult to deal with? And then maybe, I guess later on, then there's probably, like you've spoke about already, lots of projects being thrown at you. You're probably able to get into all these huge parties and different things. And I've heard some, I don't want to say horror stories, but a lot of people struggle with that newfound fame and money and being in that situation. How did you cope with that, and how did you find?
I don't think I rose to the level in my profession. Even there were, I never went to those big parties and stuff. I mean, I happened to go to like premiere parties and stuff. The movie I worked on, but otherwise, I never sort of got caught up in that type of thing. At least not that I'm willing to tell you. But you saw it for us, so you got a little taste of it. I lost you?
No. I was just reading somebody had messaged me.
Richard Kelly was offered the chance to direct, but turned the offer down. Do you know? I don't know who Richard Kelly is.
He directed Donnie Darko.
Oh yeah.
So apparently he was attached at one point. Now again, some of this stuff, there's a lot of trivia that goes online that I'm not sure how true some of it actually is.
Right. I have no idea. He may have been. That film is really good. But has he done other things lately? Or?
I don't think a massive amount.
Yeah. Anyway.
How did you find the experience between writing a movie and then directing something?
Well, yeah, I got to direct. I've directed quite a few things, but what's the difference between directing and writing?
Your experience? How was it, like the process and everything for you, or did you?
Yeah, what's good about writing, good about directing, is that you can write in a novel. You can write a page about how people is dressed and all these sorts of descriptions and of that, what they're thinking and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the reader still the reader is going to have to fill in the blanks. Like the reader might think he has blonde hair, whereas the novelist wrote it as red hair. In the the filmmaker, the director, is one person got to say, no, he drives that kind of a car. No, he's the type of person that would eat way too much. And whatever the thing is, you control it all except for budget, which is the big difference and stuff. Having just made a $50,000 film, this is getting toward the end, so it's just great to have that kind of control, and you don't get that kind of control when you're just writing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you're writing, you don't have to worry about how you're going to shoot that. You don't have to think, oh man, why am I writing this in winter at night? That's miserable. And as a writer, you're just like, not my problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. For this movie, what was your original ending for the movie?
Original what?
The ending for Valentine.
It's weird because I know we did have this where they pull back the mask and it's not who they expected. Yeah, Dorothy, I think is the character's name. I always had that. But now, the last time I saw this movie, I'm not sure that it actually made sense. Does it all add up? I'm asking you.
Kind of.
Yeah. I sort of felt like it might have been clearer in the original version, but I don't recall exactly what the differences were.
Yeah.
But it was going to be revealed that she was in there wearing the mask.
What did anybody in the chat who has watched this for the first time, what do you think about the reveal and the twist and stuff here at the end? I know there's a couple of people who've only seen this for the first time tonight.
Oh, it'd probably be difficult to see it tonight with us talking all over it. I don't know. I don't remember. But I am thankful that some people tuned in for this. It was fun talking about it. I've only seen the movie, since its premiere and stuff. I've only seen it once.
Really?
I showed it to somebody, and they really liked it, which was cool. And so it just happens to be sort of harder to think of other things, but I've enjoyed talking about it.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time, I will say, and not any particular thing, just some of the ideas, the concepts, and I love the look of the movie, like the set pieces and the different things. Yeah, they always stuck out to me, the locations, and it was really immersive. Like the art gallery scene, I think, is absolutely fantastic, and just to hear the story about the premiere party that they had set it up like that, that's very cool. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I enjoyed doing this, and I hope you're trying to watch the movie at the same time. Good luck.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
To that time. And my favorite genre of movie. Oh, wait, answer that question.
I wonder, will they attempt to, I guess, remake or reboot Valentine? I know they're doing Urban Legend. They're remaking Urban Legend again.
Yeah. Urban Legend is a story that you just feel like there's so many urban legends that you could do that movie a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And work. I think, Valentine, this weekend's Valentine's Day weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people like to see scary movies and good date movies. So I could see them definitely doing it.
Yeah, I think the idea with Urban Legend is essentially kind of the same movie, except they're going to use modern day online urban legends.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, which is a cool idea. But I do think you could definitely reintroduce Valentine and the character and stuff again to maybe the younger audience. And like you said, it's a good date movie. I think, in my personal opinion, I think it would make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because slasher movies are still fun. They're a really good date movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because you always like it when the girl has to hold on to you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your time.
Horror show.
Where can So last thing, I guess, then, where can people find you? What can people do to support you? I'll have all the links down below because I will publish the audio this separately. But where can people find you? Where can they support anything you want to talk about or promote?
Yeah, the internet has a website for my latest movie, which I talked about briefly. And the website for that is lovesme.film.
Okay.
And as I said, that the movie Loves Me Not is screening on Amazon Prime and other Vudu and all those platforms. We talked about Out of Order. That's also on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime has the unedited version of it. So that's anyway, the stuff I think you would like. And I guess just keep an eye open for Here Comes the Bride. Let's hope it makes it to the screen.
Do you use your social media for keeping people up to date with that stuff, or?
Not as well as I should, but my Instagram is Wayne lower dash, what's called it, not a dash, but a thing. Wayne dash Powers dash filmmaker.
Yeah, so we've got Wayne.
Instagram, so drop me a thing.
Yes.
I don't have a big. I'm not organized in that form too much, but yeah, I know I should be. And it'd be nice.
Yeah, so it's
really nice.
Wayne _Powers _filmmaker. All the links will be below. So whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you can get podcasts, this will be hosted. So the links will all be down below for Wayne's stuff. And I appreciate you taking the time. It's been a long one. We're probably at 2 hours now at this point. So I really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure.
Thanks very
much. Hope you guys all go on to make films you're happy with. Take care.
Thanks, man. Bye.